15 years after Beijing Platform for Action and 10 years after the 2015 targets for education for all and the Millennium Development Goals, achievements towards furthering the gender-related goals of the global agenda, global development agenda, needs to be recognized and celebrated. There's been a lot of progress in terms of girls' and women's enrollment in education, from pre-primary to higher education. And in Latin America particularly, and some Asian countries, a lot of progress has been made. In Africa, only a few countries are sure to meet the goals of EFA, Education for All, and some reaching the Millennium Development Goals. However, a lot has been made, especially in poorer countries, countries like Mali, Nepal, in Burkina, where they are not near universal primary education, but they have made a lot of progress, sometimes doubled enrollments of girls in formal education and in non-formal education over 10 years. However, despite this progress, there is a lot of concern with gender equality issues. Although we've made progress in access, gender equality remains a big challenge in many of the countries we are talking about. What are the barriers that have prevented women and girls to reach this desired gender equality? Poverty, I think, is one of the main challenges because it's overarching, and in communities where the most vulnerable and the marginalized children live, especially in rural areas, in urban areas, children with disabilities, children coming from minority ethnic groups and linguistic communities, those are the ones who are really difficult to reach currently. And the barriers range from early marriages, cultural barriers, for example, to teenage pregnancies, to HIV/AIDS, and very importantly, violence, gender-based violence. Conflict is also another barrier that has dampened the progress. In most countries where there is conflict, actually 40% of the 72 million children who are out of school currently and do not have educational opportunity or any opportunity for learning, 40% of those 72 million live in conflict-ridden countries. And in most cases, rebuilding efforts do not necessarily focus on the social sectors, including education and health. Educational quality is also another problem that is really preventing girls and women from staying in school or accessing other alternative learning opportunities. There is actually a gender parity paradox, because as more countries are putting more children into schools, the quality of education seems to go down. And despite the fact that there is proven evidence that investing in girls' education improves the quality of education overall in any country, we're seeing that educational quality is going down as more children enter the school system. The absence of relevant curricula and teacher training, for example, in many of these countries where mass enrollments have happened, teachers have been hired without qualifications and they're in the classroom. That also affects quality of education. In many countries, especially in African countries, we've inherited colonial systems of education, and in many of them, rote memory has been privileged over critical thinking, and this affects very much how women relate to what they're learning, and the lack of relevance to their lives or to improving their communities and to improving the health of their children is also an issue related to quality. In many countries as well, although young women are having more access to education, they are not benefiting from skills that are marketable, skills that allow them to earn a living and to contribute to the society and the economic progress of the country. That doesn't mean that women do not work or contribute economically. However, they are confined in career paths that are not necessarily empowering, that are not necessarily lucrative for women. When we talk about science, technology, education, teaching, like Mr. Chair was saying, we see that women are missing from those groups. Finally, the global financial crisis has not helped, and it has pushed many countries to divest from investing in education, and many of the cooperation agencies, including bilateral and multilateral agencies and foundations, have been slowly moving away from social sectors and focusing more on the macroeconomic issues. This, of course, risks actually making us lose the gains that we have made in terms of enrollment and persistence for young women. What are, in general, areas where women have made gains and where quality of improvements, quality of education has improved? I think if we look at policy, the policy level, we need to recognize that policies must prioritize quality education, and we need to move the focus away from gender parity alone, because putting girls into schools is one thing, but keeping them into schools and making them learn something useful is another. So policies need to be adjusted, and the staff of ministries need to be trained into gender awareness and ability to actually deal with gender issues, both at the policy level and in the practice arena. I mean here the school level. Teacher education and teacher status is also another area where we need to definitely invest a lot of money, but also gender-responsive pedagogy for teachers, so that they are able to deal with both gender issues relating to both boys and girls within the classroom, that they are able to equip young women to empower themselves, to fend for themselves in the school system. My time is up, but I hope we will have the opportunity to talk more in detail. I just wanted to point out that many of the policies and approaches relating to quality education cannot happen in the empty. They have to happen simultaneously with many other interventions, demonstrative interventions, showing what works and what doesn't. But they need to happen both at policy level, at practice level, within communities, so that all stakeholders can contribute at the same time to addressing the various issues that are plaguing education in our countries, especially gender equality through education. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.